What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Washington Brawl Podcast, presented to you by the Brawl Network. I am your host, Parker Hamlet, and we are here to recap and reap what we sowed because the Washington football team fell to the 0-5, that is right, the winless New York Football Giants on Sunday, and we have officially hit rock bottom. I am joined by my co-host, the OG, everybody's favorite Hokie, Chris Fowler. Chris, I got to say, man, I'm jealous that you didn't really have to watch the game on Sunday. I mean, you already have a kind of a cool job, but I mean, I'm still jealous.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad I missed it too. I was kind of keeping up with it on my phone a little bit, and I'll be honest, I wasn't really surprised. But it's still just always tough to see, losing to a division rival who's also happens to be winless. And I think it's kind of ironic that we come off of last year's game. The last time we met with them was the Chase Young Bowl, and here we have Chase Young now, and we still find a way to lose. So it looks like that didn't even, make that much of an impact. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't unexpected. I think we both called it, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, man. We're 24 hours removed now. Can kind of breathe a little bit. Some of those fumes are down. I was honestly just numb at the end. The outcome of it really didn't matter to me. It more so mattered to me when it came in regards to the outcome of Sloppy Sunday. But I mean, other than that, like you said, we both kind of saw where this was going, but it definitely stings. Like you said, division rival. This was a game that we were both, at least expecting better results out of altogether because of the state of the New York Giants. Like we said, they come into this game winless, and they're considered the worst team in the NFC East, and we lose to them, and not just lose them, but lose them in crushing fashion. But on today's episode of Washington Brawl, we're going to discuss the blame game, grade the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. We're going to pay the price on our first ever Sloppy Sunday. Also, is the Washington football team tanking? We will discuss that. Is it finally time to start questioning Ron Rivera? Also, we check in on the state of the NFC East to cap the show. But to open this episode of Washington Brawl, we will begin our first ever post-game edition of Sloppy Sunday, the over-under game with a twist. You take the over or the under if you're right. You keep your sobriety if you're wrong. You pay the price. And tonight, Chris, what are we drinking?
I got that Grey Goose on me. I got to show off for the first time. I don't have much in it, so next week I'll probably be drinking Smirnoff. So I just had to show out for the first over-under shot party. So yeah, I got that Grey Goose on me.
So Chris is showing out, and I'm clawing whatever I had in my cabinet, which is cracking. So I'm drinking some Hate. Got some rum over here, as we both said on the last episode. But we're just gonna get this out of the way, so you guys know that the rest of the episode is straight from the heart. But before we continue with Sloppy Sunday, we are of course brought to you by our sponsor, Manscaped. It's cuffing season, guys. It's getting cold, so make sure that when you're under the covers, you are ready for action. Join the Manscaped family today. Manscaped has been providing the top-of-the-line male grooming tools to help give you the maximum performance with the Lawnmower 3.0, which is simply the best hygiene male tool for the modern man. I mean, it's waterproof, has advanced skin-safe technology for no nicks. None of those unnecessary bumps and bruises you get along the way with all those other razors on the market. Convenient LED light. I mean, look at that. I mean, it just doesn't get much better than that, guys. Also has a nice little charging dock, so it never goes dead. You can also get this and a few other exclusive items in the Performance Package 3.0 today. Like I said, not only do you get the Lawnmower 3.0 like I just showed you, but you also get the Crop Preserver, as seen here, and the Crop Reviver. The Crop Preserver is a perfect anti-chafing deodorant for your balls, and the Crop Reviver is a spray-on toner that is made with soothing aloe and hazel extracts that make you feel revitalized no matter what time of the year it is. Normally, you would get all these items together for only $89.99, but you can now get the Performance Package 3.0 for 20% off using promo code BRAWL with this limited time offer. That is promo code BRAWL BRAWL to get 20% off of the Performance Package 3.0 today. Join the Manscaped family, Washington Brawl listeners. Your balls will thank you. We have 5 over and unders. We also ran some polls on the page to kind of compare our answers along with Washington Brawl listeners' answers. Just have a little bit of context there. So let's go and get started with it. Chris, you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So number 1, Kyle Allen has over or under 275 passing yards on the day. The people voted over. You and I voted under, and we were wrong because Kyle Allen, Rivera's boy, finished with 280 passing yards on the day. So, Chris, you know what that means. Let's go ahead and pour up.
Happy I was wrong. Also, I found out I need to invest in a shot glass.
Same. Look at this, man. I mean, I know I'm fun side, but like this is.
I'm going real classy with it. You know, a little see-through bottle. Just get the bottom of it with a little wet.
Hey, man, I set a shot. I'm not doing any more than that. I got to be at work tomorrow. All right, let's go and take this first one. Cheers.
Kyle Allen.
For Kyle Allen.
Oof.
Man.
Felt that one
pretty good. So let's go to number 2.
Hope I'm wrong again.
The defense allows over or under 30 points. The people chose under, and so did we. So that means we survived because the Washington football team allowed 20 points on the day. So no shot for number 2. Number 3, Chase Young has over or under 2 sacks on the day.
I'm going to go ahead and get my cup ready.
We both picked over, and the people picked over. So you're listening at home, man. Get the nastiest thing you got in your cabinet. Take a shot, because everybody was wrong. Chase Young still had a pretty solid outing, I'd say. Had that nice quarterback pressure we'll talk about a little bit later. He was ranked pretty high by PFF. Actually the highest rated defensive rookie of the week, but did not get 2 sacks. So what does that mean? Another shot of Gary Goose and another shot of Kraken. All right. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right.
For Andrew Thomas.
Oh, it hurts so good. All right.
Just FYI, I was already drinking before we started recording, so this could get ugly.
Thank God I'm hosting. All right. So thank you for letting us down, Chase. So this is where I start to get a little stupid. I had Devontae Freeman having over 100 yards on the day. Everybody but me chose under. I don't know what was in my cup when I decided that Devontae Freeman would have a breakout performance.
I know it's in your cup now.
3
Boy, some of that Kraken.
3 weeks off the street, and I thought this dude was going to break out. So, I'll go ahead and take another one. Who's this one go to, Chris? I'm going to go and say Jason Garrett.
Let's go to Ron Payne.
Deron Payne. Yeah, he did stop him. He had a great game.
He did. It was really solid.
Deron Payne. All right. To Deron Payne. Oh. Holy mother of God. Let's go to number 5. Washington over under 20 points on the day for the offense.
We were damn close.
This made me sick, man. I wasn't even emotionally invested in the outcome as much as I was invested in, like I said, this. Because this was literally the difference in you and me. Like, this was for the lead, pretty much. Of course, it's insinuating that I have to take a shot here. Because we scored 19 points, which is our average.
Numbers don't lie, Parker.
They don't lie, but if we'd gotten that 2-point conversion, this would be a different conversation. But like I said, I chose over. The people also chose over, and it was by a lot. I think it was like 70-something% was the poll on the page. So everybody else had the same in common as me. I think a lot of people expected better out of the offense, but here we are. That puts Chris at 2 shots on the day, and it puts me at the 3rd and final shot of. Please tell me you just saw that.
You spill?
I just took the charge and Doc. It was like,
God, he's hammered already.
I'm not hammered, man. I'm not hammered.
I think I'm gonna take a shot with you because this one is just for Dan Snyder.
Dan Snyder. I like
and all the wonderful things he's done for our franchise.
Yeah, we're turning into full-blown alcoholics, and we're in week 7. This is kind of sad. All right, to Dan Snyder. All right, they got a lot easy. Got a lot easier as we went. So, Chris wins the first sloppy Sunday by a score of 2-3. Gosh, man, things did not go how I thought they would. I'll tell you that much. I was on the Redskins Addicts pregame stream. I was on the DC Tweet Team Burgundy Zone throughout the week, man, and I had very high expectations of this contest. Let's get all the bad stuff out of the way first, though, man. And what better place to start than Scott Turner's offense, which is apparently just the RPO playbook in Madden. I mean, that's what I've just come to realize every time I watch them on Sundays. I think we both knew the kind of day it was going to be when Sadiq Charles went down 2 plays into the game.
Yeah, I think we kind of had high hopes for Sadiq. Just, seeing him out there, see what to do, see if there was any difference, and all of a sudden, 2 plays and he goes down. So I guess he played well enough for those 2 snaps, but there's not really enough snaps there to really be able to tell anything about him.
No, not at all. There was no body of work there. And that's a guy that you were hoping was going to come in and make a difference, man. And 2 plays into the game, he's down. He did come out today, and I'm not trying to make light of the injury, but he did come out today and say he was going to be all right. He has a dislocated knee, probably going to miss about 2 to 3 weeks. So unfortunately for Washington football team fans, that means more of a Wes Martin. So speaking of injuries, Antonio Gandy-Golden got banged up a little bit. I think he was kept out of the rest of the game more of as like a precautionary thing, hamstring. So he should be good to go by next week. But let's stay on the offensive theme. And oh God, that offense. Kyle Allen, Mr. Rivera, finished 31 for 42 for 280 yards. 5 yards, man. 5 yards. He got 5 yards over the. Anyway, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he had 2 very costly turnovers that both led to New York Giants scores. First is that James Bradbury interception, and the next being that fumble return touchdown. Chris, what did you think of Kyle Allen's performance against the New York Giants?
For the last day and a half, probably since that game, I've been telling myself, don't compare it to Dwayne. Just don't. People don't want to hear that. People don't want to make that comparison. But Parker,
it's there.
I had to do 3 shots of Grey Goose. I'm throwing it out there. What did he do? What did Kyle Allen do that put us in a better position to win than Dwayne Haskins? He did the same thing. Like everything that Dwayne did in his worst game, Kyle Allen did today or Sunday. So what is the difference? I don't like. And then I'm sure we'll get into it more. But in Ron Rivera's press conference after the game, he talks about how great he did. And I don't know, man. It just seems like love Ron Rivera and Ron we trust. Seems like there's a lot of favoritism getting thrown around, and I hate to throw that word out there because I feel like that's pretty severe. But I don't know. I just don't see it, man. I don't see it.
He's becoming a walking contradiction.
Head throw.
To me, it's just way too early for that to be happening. But as far as Kyle Allen's concerned, that Bradbury interception, man, while expected at some point during the game, because, he was ranked pretty high by PFF and has had a stellar season so far, was still just a hideous throw and decision. And then there's that fumble.
That lost the game.
Oh, my God. That was the dagger on a good performance for me, for Kyle Allen. We were driving to take the lead, not the tie, but the lead. And then he coughs up the ball to not just anybody, man, and not a Pro Bowler, to not a guy that people really worry about, but to Tay Crowder. Chris, let me enlighten you. Tay Crowder is Mr. Irrelevant of the 2020 NFL Draft, the last pick. There are 3 minutes left in the contest. Pretty much the season's on the line here. But not only that, Kyle was just captain check down the whole game. There were just multiple 3rd and longs where Kyle would just check it down to the flats where there were already 3 tacklers waiting to tackle J.D. McKissick or Peyton Barber, enter running back X here, That's not attacking excellence, man. That's embracing mediocrity. And, how much did we hear about Haskins failing the test because he wasn't aggressive enough throwing the ball downfield, And this is our quote-unquote better play at quarterback. Rivera itself is an entire conversation that we are definitely going to have later in this pod. But before we move on, how do you feel about Rivera going for it twice And how did you feel about the 2-point conversion at the end? Because that is a talking point right now.
Yeah, honestly, I think for every fourth down, we should be going for it at this point. I mean, what is there to lose? You can't lose anything if you turn the ball over on downs. It's just as much as waiting 2 plays after punting because they're going to be in pretty much practically the same position.
Exactly.
I have nothing wrong going for it on fourth down. And the 2-point conversion, I will be honest, that was one part of the game that I was keeping up with on my phone. And I'm like, hell yeah, go for 2. I mean, exactly. You would think that any NFL team versus an 0-5 team, no matter how bad you are, should be able to score from the 3-yard line, 2.5-yard line.
With a very mobile quarterback. And, you're going to see people moaning about that decision, but at the end of the day, we need to keep the drive alive in both instances where we went for it on fourth down. And as sad as it is to say, we could not stop the Giants on offense. So our hands were tied in that aspect, in my opinion. Even though I had to take an extra shot, I understood the thought process. And if Kyle Allen had just tucked it and ran it in, we would have won the game, and I would have tied with you on Sloppy Sunday. But I digress. The rush attack, though, man, just continues to be a vice. We finished with 87 total yards on the day, which is better than the 38 last week. But we were also playing the Rams and Aaron Donald, which I feel like you can kind of understand someone having a porous outing when it comes to the rush attack. But not much of an improvement in the run game against a Giants defense who, a lot like us, is in the bottom half of the league statistically. Chris, off the top of your head, who do you think? Let me put it this way: who do you think was our leading rusher?
I did go back and watch the game. Dude, did we even run the ball really? I feel like every damn play was a pass to the running back. I'll say it's Kyle Allen. I think that's what you're alluding to.
To me, it's worse than that. It was J.D. McKissic. He's our scat back, man. He had more receiving yards than he had rushing yards. He finished today with 41 yards on the ground. This offensive line, though, was not giving them much to work with. I will say that. Peyton Barber and Antonio Gibson both fought pretty hard for all the yards they got all day. Gibson especially, I don't know if you saw it or not, got a lot of yards after contact. A lot more than most running backs will be able to do.
That's what he always does, man. I really like Antonio Gibson. I feel like they're just not trying hard enough to get the ball in his hands because no matter what, no matter how awful this O-line is, no matter how bad of a play call it is, he's going to go out there and get every single yard he can get on every given play. And that's something I love to see. And I'm not saying McKissic and Peyton Barber and those guys aren't doing that either, but we drafted this guy out of Memphis. We're trying to shape him into, the Christian McCaffrey that we want him to be. He's a guy who had more targets in college than he had rushing attempts. This is the man we should be targeting out of the backfield. Yet every single time you see it's McKissic or Peyton Barber or someone of that nature. We got to get if we want this team, we want this offense to have any sort of life, we've got to force it into our playmakers' hands. And I thought that was the whole goal of Scott Turner's offense. Are you telling me that J.D. McKissic is our biggest playmaker because he's getting the most touches? It just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like they're not standing by their whole game plan that they've been praising since the second they were hired. It just makes zero sense to me.
Hey, man, don't forget that J.D. McKissic is RB1. I know it's been a little while since we had this discussion, but you're talking about number one depth chart right there. I agree with you, though, man. You got to get the ball in Antonio Gibson's hands at the end of the day. And I feel like Scott Turner goes to the podium every week and comes up with a statistic to defend himself and to, rationalize what he's doing. Last week he said, well, he's had more rushing attempts than he's ever had in Memphis here at the beginning of this season. It's okay, well, that's great. Well, it's obviously not enough because our run game is not all that it could be, and anybody who is two eyes can see that. Anybody who's been following, who watches the game or follows Watch Football Team knows that Antonio Gibson is not being utilized to the fullest of his advantage. I think the only time you can really say that has actually happened is the Ravens game, the game that people don't like to talk about, the game where Haskins gloated about his statistics, the game where, apparently a lot of people in that locker room were split down the middle. But somebody that we need to discuss, and I feel like a lot of people are kind of giving him a pass, and we're going to just get this out of the way before we move to the things we actually like about this game. We got to call out Dustin Hopkins, man. Something's got to give.
It's getting ridiculous.
It's completely ridiculous. And Rivera said today that he's not on the hot seat and they're not going to be trying out any kickers. But I don't know about you, Chris, but I remember a lot more times in recent memory than not where Dustin Hopkins has missed pretty critical kicks. If he makes that kick today, we win the football game, right?
Yeah, every kick is critical for this football team because we can't score. We can't score. So every time we have an opportunity to score, you got to take advantage of it. And I feel like Dustin Hopkins, who has been a guy who's been reliable for the majority of his, career with us, but this year it's just I don't know what's up. It's not enough. He's got to get better, or something's got to change.
I don't know, man. I can't sit here and listen to this stuff. And I said we'll get around later, but I got to get this off my chest. I'm tired of hearing all this stuff about how everybody it's a competition in every single position, but we're going to exclude the kicker, who, like you said, is more often than not the only way we score points half the time, and he's missing big kicks in critical situations. Quite frankly, I haven't forgiven Dustin Hopkins for the Wembley game against the Bengals where he botched that kick. I still haven't forgiven him for that. So ever since then, he's been on thin ice for me. But like I said, man, I can't remember the last time Dustin Hopkins made a big kick to give the Washington football team a win, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. So, Dustin Hopkins, if you're listening to this, man, you're on the hot seat on Washington Brawl, man, and something's got to give. If we're going to preach competition in every position, it needs to go to every position. So, we got all that off our chest. Let's go to the good. Chris, I know it's hard to tell me anything positive about that game, but what is a positive takeaway you had from Kyle Allen in the offensive side of the ball?
Nothing. There's nothing there. Not at the state it's in right now. I mean, you can look back and say all you want to. You can try to make everything look better than it is. Yeah, Kyle Allen racked up a lot of passing yards. Yeah, the vibe might have been better, but the bottom line is we still lost. We still couldn't put the ball in the end zone enough. I was just watching the Cardinals game. They put up 21 points in the first half. We couldn't put up 21 points in the entire ball game.
Against the Giants, man.
Against the 0-5 New York Giants.
I will say there were some bright spots, and one I'm surprised you didn't mention was Logan Thomas. He had a nice little touchdown grab. Actually made the top 10 on SportsCenter. He finished with 3 catches, 42 yards on the day, and that lone touchdown. I thought he had a nice little performance. Terry McLaurin is going to Terry McLaurin.
But that's what we're making good performances now. Like, that should be expected. That should be Logan Thomas week in and week out, and I'm not putting it all on Logan. I'm not putting it all on Kyle Allen. But that should be what we expect out of our offense. You see every other team in the NFL making those plays that Logan Thomas made. You see every other quarterback in the NFL making those throws that Kyle Allen made today. The good ones, it's not enough, man. It's not enough. So we can highlight it if we want to, but it's got to be better than that.
I agree, man. This was a low point. We were sitting there talking about last week about how if we lost this game, we might as well go ahead and just count our losses and consider this a lost season, and I still feel that way. But I mean, I'm still going to give some people credit, people that are put in kind of unfavorable positions and are still good playmakers. Like Terry McLaurin, finished with 7 receptions, 74 yards. I did not agree with the amount of times he was being targeted. I mean, he was wide open several times, and then, they don't target him again until like halfway through the fourth quarter in the second half. It's like, why are you not putting the ball in his hands? He is easily the best player on your offense, bar none. So
I think it goes back to Scott Turner. I mean, if you're going to throw screens all game long to J.D. McKissick and Antonio Gibson, you're telling me you can't draw up another slant for Terry McLaurin that worked in the first part of the season, like the first couple of weeks? Like, that was our game plan. That's when we had our best offense was when we got the ball out quick. We went with tempo, got into McLaurin's hands, let him run with it. It just wasn't enough. And if you're going to put the ball into playmakers' hands, then get it into Terry's hands. Because he is our lone playmaker on this team.
Hey, man, you're talking about garbage time. Pipe it down, I mean, you're not allowed to talk about any of the stuff he did.
Are we going to try it in non-garbage time? I mean, if it worked in garbage time, who knows? Maybe it'll work.
And Scott protected Kyle Allen, man, because every single time, every other catch Terry had was behind the line of scrimmage. It's not like he's bombing it downfield to him. I'll admit, Kyle had a couple nice passes in the middle of the field, but he also missed a couple passes in the middle of the field as well. So they're obviously trying to protect Kyle just like they were trying to protect Dwayne. Obviously we don't have anything competent going at the quarterback position. I did think Brandon Scherf played well in his return. I am glad to have him back. I thought he looked pretty good out there coming off injury. Also, shout out to Cam Sims. Scored his first NFL regular season touchdown. 36 seconds left in regulation. Unfortunately, that was overshadowed by us failing the 2-point conversion and ultimately losing the game. But shout out to Cam Sims. I was happy for him. He was a guy that Kyle Allen really developed a chemistry with throughout training camp when they were running with the twos, where he still should be. Defensively, this team was a unit that we hyped up all week, Chris, and we only got to Daniel Jones one time, and that just isn't going to cut it. Montez Sweat and Chase Young were both ranked top 10 defensively by PFF in week 6. we said that this defense would have to get to Jones early and often and force turnovers, and that just didn't happen, What do you think the issue was?
Honestly, I was okay with the defensive performance. I know we didn't really get to Jones. I know we let the big play happen on the 40-yard run, which was just horrifying and poor camera work, honestly, because it was not that nice of a fake. If I can just put that out there. But
if you were there.
Do what?
Only if you were there.
Exactly. So, yeah, but I mean, honestly, like, you think about the points they scored. The Giants scored 20 points. One of those touchdowns came right after a turnover. And another one of those touchdowns came off of the fumble return for a touchdown. So, if you really want to come at them, I don't think they really gave up that many points. I mean, you can if, and but all you want, but it looks like to me they didn't give up really but 6 points.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think that the offense deserves a hell of a lot more blame than the defense does, but also at the same time, let's be real with ourselves. Daniel Jones threw his first touchdown pass since week 1, Chris, to a guy that I said the Washington football team needed to watch out for, and that is one Darius Slayton, who absolutely burned Fabian Moreau deep early to give the Giants a 10-point lead. And to make it hurt just a little bit worse, Chris, I don't know if you caught this, Kendall Fuller was playing free safety on that play. So
yeah, but that's on Darby, bro. That's on Darby. Kendall Fuller is a single high safety. He's got to look inside on that. He can't run to the boundary on that quick of a pass if Darby doesn't force him back inside.
The safety's accountable for anything. I mean, their job is to help. Ultimately, it is.
Darby has to keep him inside. If it's a streak, but you have to keep him inside and give Kendall a chance.
I thought it was
to come over and help.
It was Fabian that allowed the touchdown.
Oh yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it was Fabian.
Yeah,
Fabian's got to force him inside. He initially off the line gave him outside leverage, and there was no way. I mean, what were they on the 30-yard line, 40-yard line? And I mean,
mismatch from hell, man. I mean, he's easily one of our weakest corners. No disrespect to Fabian, I love the guy, but I mean, Slayton should have easily been a one-on-one with Darby right there, but I think they just really took advantage of the mismatch. And complete respect to Daniel Jones, who played a phenomenal game and threw an excellent ball to Darius Slayton right there. But overall, I mean, what did you think of the defensive performance? It was definitely ugly, but you definitely don't blame just this unit for the loss, correct?
I don't blame them at all. I mean, they gave up one touchdown. They gave up one touchdown that came after a turnover. Couple field goals, but I mean, if you're limiting team to field goals, even if it is a 0-5 Giants, I feel like you're doing something. Your offense should produce enough points to where if you give up one touchdown and a few field goals, you win that game. And that didn't happen. That didn't happen because our offense gave up what practically was the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, you're right.
Defense did everything they could out there. They had a blown play. That happened. It was a great pass. It was a great catch. I felt like it was a great call by Del Rio. He just got burned on it. I mean, he brought the house. He just got burned on it.
You're right.
It happens. That happens in football. You get bested.
Exactly.
But for the fact for our offense never to best that horrible defense is a joke to me. It is an absolute joke to me. The fact that you can't score from the 3-yard line with the game on the line, not even like you dove for the pylon and a defender made a great play. He just didn't throw it.
He just didn't throw it.
Horrid. It is absolutely horrible.
I know you mentioned Daniel Jones' big run earlier, and on Fox's broadcast, they briefly mentioned Washington, how they've been historically bad this season at stopping explosive plays. And I knew when they said that it was going to happen.
The next play.
It was kind of like when, they mentioned how kickers have been completely accurate all the way up to this point in the season, and they just shank it. Because like you said, man, Danny Dimes took off for pretty much 50 yards. Longest rush by a Giant all season. I went back and watched the tape. That was all definitely on rookie James Smith-Williams from NC State. Just a bad mismatch. He bit on that read so hard. Oh, my God, that poor guy. But, I mean, Daniel Jones' rushing ability is also something that we talked about in the pregame podcast as well, man. He has 4 rushes of over 20 yards this season, and he broke a 50-yarder on us. So can't say we didn't see that coming. The defense certainly didn't, though. So, but overall, like you, I'm not dissatisfied with the defense. I mean, the offense had 2 ugly turnovers that led to scoring drives and or plays. This defense forced field goals when needed and kept Big Blue out of the end zone when they needed to do so. Play of the game, though, for sure, man. That Kendall Fuller interception, oh my God. Chase Young had an incredible pressure on Daniel Jones in the red zone, forced him to get rid of the ball. And what athleticism and awareness by the former Hokie to stay in bounds, come down with it for this 4th interception of the year in only a handful of games. In case you guys ever remember, he started off the season injured, didn't start week 1 or week 2. So the fact that he's now leading the league in interceptions, man, that's a feat. Not bad for an overplayed slot corner, right, Chris?
My favorite stat of the game was Kendall Fuller had registered his 4th interception on the season. And in Norman's 49-50 games with the team, he had 4 interceptions. So in 3 games, Kendall's already matched Norman's interception.
Dude, that's a nugget right there. That's why Chris Fowler is one of the best. So, another guy I gotta give a shout out to, man. Cole Holcomb. What a game by the young buck, man. He didn't exactly break any records, but he was in the backfield often, got a couple TFLs, flying everywhere, man. My expectations weren't very high, but I think he made the best of the opportunities that were given to him. Another guy that I think that you can have that same case for is the guy who got the nod to start at free safety, and that's DeShazer Everett, who took over for Troy Apke, came in, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, was immediately an upgraded position. Is that fair to say?
I think it was an upgrade. I still don't think he is solidified at that free safety position. I think, and this was his first game in, so we'll see how it turns out. We'll see if he can feel that position out a little bit and become a safety. I don't think he's a starter next year, though. I don't think this is a guy we're looking long term. Go ahead.
I definitely think he's an upgrade over Troy Apke, man.
Absolutely. He wasn't blowing the plays that Apke was making, and even on that penalty he had on the Daniel Jones hit, I feel like that's wishy-washy, man. That's a tough call on the refs. So I don't really blame him for that. I feel like he stuck his nose in there. He had a big hit on Jones on a run that possibly looked like he could have scored.
He stuck.
Yeah, he did. I think he had a decent game. I still don't think he's exactly everything we're looking for and more, but I think you're absolutely right. It was an upgrade.
He's a good plug for your tire if you're trying to get to the end of the year. It's kind of how I hate to be pessimistic, man, but we're gonna shift gears back to that. But it looks like it's Wonder Bread's time in DC is up. But let's go ahead and get into Washington football head coach Ron Rivera, who started the season off 1-0 on cloud 9 after a big win in Philly, which feels like it was a decade ago. Mind you, before we go in on the guy, he inherited a franchise with a pretty lackluster roster, a controlling owner, a quarterback he didn't draft, a dozen scandals, happened to get cancer along the way, and a bunch of stuff that Ron Rivera didn't really ask for. But in spite of this, Chris, I think it's safe to say we still have to hold him to his word, correct?
Yeah, and that word is all over the place at this point. I don't know what he believes, and I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know what his game plan is, and honestly, every game, every week, it's getting harder to understand it. It gets even more blurry. It gets even more foggy. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not on the fire Ron Rivera train yet. But
I'm not, dude. Chris. I'm not even close.
But there are people that are.
There are, but you have to understand, this is his team. This is his organization. Dan has an entire firestorm coming at him full-fledged, and he hired a guy that he felt, and I think you and I both still believe, can handle everything. But at the end of the day, no matter how good of a head coach you are, no matter how much of a culture you try to bring to a losing organization, there's only so much stuff you can fix in one season, and I think Ron Rivera's starting to learn that,
Yeah, he fixed enough in the offseason that most coaches wouldn't have been able to deal with at all. I can see most coaches saying sayonara after dealing with all the stuff that Ron Rivera had to deal with in his before he played his first game, before he coached his first game. So I think the guy's been through the ringer enough that we can be patient enough with him to see what he wants to do moving forward.
And that's the thing, man, is that, you got all these, Ron Rivera sympathists that are on the timeline saying, oh, well, you can't understand all the stuff that he's going through. He's taking on so much at once. And I agree with that. But at the end of the day, man, the media are going to ask you questions and people are going to hold you to your word. And when you start contradicting that, especially when you have a get out of jail free card of a season in 2020 and you rush the process, bench your first round draft pick from last year, and you're telling us that you're in a win now situation, people are going to start questioning your integrity when the things you say don't add up. And Chris, we'll go and start right here. Did you happen to check his post-game comments out about Kyle Allen in their entirety?
It seemed like he was just being extremely, extremely patient with him, which I understand this was his first full game. but he still had 2 turnovers. Crucial turnovers. He missed passes. He missed throws. He did have a very good throw to possibly win us the game, but then he just completely he screwed up that last play. I'm sorry. That's on Kyle Allen.
Yeah.
You can call it up to poor play design. You can call it up to whatever you want to call it up to. I think Ron should have gone for it. I'm glad he went for it. I'm glad it was a pass. I think you have plenty of options there. You can dump it off to somebody or you can run it in yourself. I think he had the option to run it himself. And if not, do something, man. Do something. But for him just sitting back there, not even giving anyone a chance, that's on him. That's on him.
I agree with you, man. And, we said going into the week that he had plenty of quote-unquote coach talk about Daniel Jones. But, man, these comments about Kyle after the game, oh, man. We got to get into them, man, because they are the icing on the cake. When asked if Kyle would start next week, Ron just offered an abundance of assurance that Kyle will be the starter. And then sat here weeks removed from the Haskins debacle and read this man's stat line like it was impressive, like it was something to be proud of.
Which is
the game.
Which is part of the reason we think why Dwayne got benched for reading his own stat line.
Literally the same thing. It's like you said about the Daniel Jones comments on the last pod. It's like, could he have said anything any worse than that?
He's got to be doing it on purpose.
I mean, not only that, dude, he's sitting here just with the paper in his hand like he knew that question was coming. You know what I'm saying? He also said that the offense finished with 337 total yards. Chris, Dwayne passed for 314 against the Ravens himself.
In his last game.
And that's against the Baltimore Ravens with the reigning MVP of the National Football League, Lamar Jackson. Garbage time or not, when Haskins' stats were a topic of conversation, it was a question of his character. Meanwhile, Rivera's got the Kyle Allen fan club stat sheet ready to go on the podium. It's getting harder and harder to defend this kind of stuff. What did you think of the comments?
It's getting a little shady, and I'm definitely a huge Ron Rivera supporter, and I'm a ride with him until he proves to me straight up that I can't ride with him anymore. But the fact that, we joked about it in the offseason, the Carolina Redskins, or I guess now it'd be the Carolina football team, or whatever way you want to phrase it. It's just getting really sketchy now, man. I mean, you got Scott Turner in the press box or upstairs who hasn't proven anything that he can call a game. And then you got, Kyle Allen, who is a good backup, and he proved that he could be a good backup in his time in Carolina. But then it just seemed like so anxious to name him the starter. I feel like Rivera was waiting for any little thing for Dwayne to do in order to make that be the case, to throw Kyle in there. But it just – I want to understand Ron's stance so badly because I don't want another coaching change. I don't want another quarterback change. I don't want another toxic organization, a toxic environment that we can throw all the money to free agents that we want to and they still won't come here. Like, I want this to be a healthy and sustainable environment. I'm not the one calling for a coaching change, but it just seems shady. And that's just the way it is.
And people can sit here and say that, I should just drop the Haskins Act. But at the end of the day, man, when you made that decision, you also need to understand that you signed an agreement to take all of the shit in the world for all the bad things that Kyle Allen would do under center. And, people are like, oh, well, just stop talking about Haskins, man. This isn't his team anymore. He's not going to be here next year. He's not Rivera's guy. He's not Rivera's guy. Well, what is Rivera's guy doing? I mean, you can sit here and praise these small little milestones like the fact that we punted one time yesterday. I cannot stress this enough to anybody who's listening to the Washington Brawl Podcast right now. That was the New York Giants, okay? Allen may have had a better EPA than Dwayne, and a lot of people are also forgetting that Kyle Allen has only played 5 quarters of football as the starter of the Washington football team. And this is his first full game against a bad, and I put heavy emphasis on the word bad, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, New York Giants team. And, and then he has 1 quarter against the Rams where he has a nice little scoring drive, but then he gets sent into the afterlife by Jalen Ramsey. So we're only judging him off all 5 quarters of football here against Haskins, who is playing against, in my opinion, more adequate competition. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is what kills me is that, you remember last year when they fired Jay Gruden just for enough time for Bill Callahan to come in and beat the Miami Dolphins. And then everyone was like, "Oh my God, Callahan's the best coach ever. We're finally winning. We're in the win column. Let's do it, Callahan." And then he goes on to win 2 more games for the rest of the season. That's kind of the same vibes I'm getting, man. It's like Dwayne had to get his ass kicked for a few weeks.
It's by the Ravens.
And now he has an opportunity.
Giants.
And now he has an opportunity to really prove his worth, to prove if there's anything there that you can work with. I don't care if we're in the division race, man. We are not deserving of a playoff spot. If you start off the season 1-5, 1-4, you are not, bottom line, at the end of the day, you are not going to deserve a playoff spot even if you slip in there.
Chris, do you happen to remember the last time we played the Giants? Let me enlighten you if you don't. It was a shootout. You know, it was score for score. Dwayne Haskins and Daniel Jones going at it all before Dwayne Haskins went out with an injury early in the second quarter. You know, it looked like the future was bright. You had a silver lining there. You know, you're like, oh, well, if you get a better football team next year, a better coaching staff, and all that good stuff, you know, you have a chance to win this football game. Now, what's the silver lining? You know, I mean, Ron said that he is, quote unquote, trying to teach this young football team how to win. But, man, this is really... It just makes you wonder how legitimate that claim is when it went from being about the future to being about win now. It's just, he's contradicting himself on a week-to-week basis now. And let's go and call it like we see it, man. So let's talk about some of the decisions Ron's made up to this point. Ron essentially traded Trent Williams for Kyle Allen. And he cut Adrian Peterson. I don't know about you, Chris, but I think this backfield could use Adrian Peterson right now.
Absolutely.
Do you feel as if Ron's starting to fall on his sword a little bit? I know it's week 7, but still, this conversation needs to happen. No matter how Rivera strong we are, no matter how much you support this guy. I love Ron Rivera. I don't think he's leaving this organization anytime soon. But at the end of the day, man, your integrity starts to take a hit at some point.
Yeah, no, I understand, and I agree. I think it's getting harder and harder to love Ron Rivera's, you know, and we still all love Ron Rivera. And I think most people at least have the slightest bit of faith in him. I still have faith in him, but it's hard to stand by a lot of the decision he's making. And I think one reason is because we're all looking short-term and he's looking long-term. I'm hoping that's the case because I think I'm still trying to look long-term as well, but still go win the game. Make the right decisions. I mean, it'd be different if he traded Adrian Peterson for some sort of asset, but he didn't. We talked all offseason, you know, I don't even want to get into Adrian Peterson. We've made our points about that. But there's definitely been questionable calls.
Look at Detroit, man. I mean, he's balling over there with the DeAndre Swift, man. That is a guy that we could have used in this backfield that is failing to even hit 100 yards a game. You know? There's nothing wrong with being biased as long as the decisions you are making are good for the football team, good for the Washington football team. It's really as simple as that, you know?
I'm willing to call this season a wash. I think we all knew it was a rebuild season, but, you know, and I had this conversation the other day, and I think this is going to hit home a lot of the people who are fans that are listening to this. Doesn't it suck that we wait all year for football to come back? We're just so hungry for it. We want it so badly, and in a month, it's over, and we're looking forward to April for the draft. And I'm watching Trevor Lawrence and Trey Lance highlights last night.
Oh, you cut me off. Because Big Ten football is back this week, baby. And that means that Justin Fields is taking the field, no pun intended. Those Clemson Tigers and a certain quarterback that you just mentioned looked pretty good this weekend against Georgia Tech. Chris, I don't know about you, but those Trevor Lawrence jersey swaps don't look so silly after Sunday, man. I'm just saying.
I still like
that. You don't buy on the Trevor Lawrence hype?
I don't. If I'm being honest, I'm gonna take my stand. I don't think Trevor Lawrence has got it. Just because, I mean, I had this conversation just the other day with one of my buddies. How many of these quarterbacks you know that take the league over by storm actually make it in the NFL, actually produce in the NFL? Or not even that? Look at all these big schools. Who's the last Alabama quarterback that has been really great in the NFL?
See, but I'm just gonna go.
No,
I'm gonna take a couple steps back and counter you with this. Your suggestion is a North Dakota State Bison, Trey Lance?
Absolutely.
That guy.
Absolutely.
You know, I heard a lot of stuff like that about Jordan Love, and he's struggling to throw check down passes in practice right now. with Matt LaFleur and the Packers over there. So I like Trevor Lawrence a hell of a lot more than I like any of those other prospects. I don't know about you, Chris, but I definitely don't want another Ohio State quarterback.
Yeah, I was kind of feeling the same way. And, Justin Fields is definitely the embodiment of Kyler Murray 2.0. Definitely a guy who can throw the deep ball when he needs to, but is known for his wheels and his capability, which I like. But, guys, go look up Trey Lance highlights. Or matter of fact, go look up Trey Lance game film. See where he screws up to. I like the kid. I really do.
Chris,
look it up. Week 6.
Here, Trevor Lawrence is the best in the class. And I can already hear your argument, well, he's probably going to suck here too, like all the other quarterbacks have. And I know you're an ACC guy. I know you're a Virginia Tech guy. But to those people that think that he would suck here too, please just watch the tape and educate yourselves. So like you said, Chris, I think Trey Lance is a good prospect. But Trevor Lawrence is being compared to Andrew Luck. People are saying he's a generational talent. And I think it's safe to say that you're going to need a generational talent. You're going to need someone who has the skill set of Trevor Lawrence.
Scouts are wrong, man. Scouts are wrong. I might be wrong too, but I'm taking Trey Lance, man. I'm taking Trey Lance all the way.
Pick, you're taking Trey Lance over Trevor Lawrence.
Absolutely.
You're smoking something.
Absolutely.
No way that happens, Chris. There's just no way.
How many times do you see the graphics on TV where they're like, oh, the New York Jets could have taken all these receivers, but instead they took a tackle? How many times do you see, oh, these are all the players that the Eagles skipped out on and where they could have had to? Like, the draft.
I'm glad you said the Eagles. Let me ask you a question. Let's go ahead and just take out the star quarterbacks that have been drafted from each of those last schools you're talking about, North Dakota State and Clemson. Clemson being Deshaun Watson, North Dakota State being Carson Wentz. If you were to start a franchise right now in the National Football League, which one of those franchise signal callers would you take and why?
Say it again.
Say which part again?
Who? Which signal callers?
Okay, so the last quarterback that was taken from Clemson was Deshaun Watson. The last quarterback taken from North Dakota State was, of course, Carson Wentz. If you were to start a franchise right now, who would you take and why?
Are you kidding me? That would be Deshaun Watson, but that has no connection to...
You could say it has no connection, but, I mean, at the end of the...
You just said, let's not take an Ohio State quarterback.
Yeah, but, I mean, what's the last quarterback that was decent that came out of Ohio State? Please tell me.
You're making the same argument I'm making.
I'm just saying, man, you need to kind of chill out on the bias. I know you don't like Clemson. I don't like Clemson either. But at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence is easily the best prospect in a decade. I don't know what about Trevor Lawrence's game do you not like? Let's go ahead and just make it look like you're talking about this from a football point of view rather than a personal preference.
Look. I know football is a systematic process. I know that, a coach comes in with a system and it's up to the quarterback to make the system work, to show the strengths of the system and to do what the system asks of them. But I think Trevor Lawrence is truly a system quarterback in a weak ACC conference. He threw like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first half, right? But go back and watch him. The dudes are wide open. He makes great throws, but it's just practice.
You're going to fault him for that?
No, I'm not faulting him for that. But I'm saying, look, this is my thing when it comes to drafting quarterbacks. I live in fear of the bust, and I am so excited for the boom, if that makes any sense.
It makes sense.
Go with the sleeper guy who can give you everything instead of the guy who has such high expectations that it's going to fall flat on his face.
Chris, I hate to break it to you, man, but if the Washington football team is in any position to draft Trevor Lawrence in April, they are taking him. He is easily the best quarterback prospect in a decade, and I was not sold on him at first, man. I had to go watch the tape. I was a doubter. I didn't believe in Sunshine, man, but just go watch the tape. I understand he plays at Clemson, man. Dabo's got a hell of a program over there. They've got dogs at every position, but at the end of the day, the dude's a genetic freak. He's got all the gifts athletically that you could possibly ask for out of a quarterback. An absolute cannon of an arm, says all the right things off the field. I just don't understand how anybody could possibly, if given the chance, pick Trey Lance over him as a top 3 pick. I think if we get a mid-round pick and Trey Lance is on the board, I love that pick. But if you're in the top 3, man, you take Trevor Lawrence and you let him lead the Washington Red Wolves to victory, man, end of the day.
That means I need us to win a couple games in this stretch so we're not in a position to draft Trevor Lawrence.
I hate to break it to you, buddy, but when we're losing the New York Football Giants, we're officially in that conversation. But speaking of the NFC East, the dumpster fire of the NFL, where the Dallas Cowboys, who are currently losing to the Arizona Cardinals and calamari, are the division leaders. The rest of the division goes in order. The Eagles are at 1-4-1. The Giants are at 1-5. And we are now sitting at last place. what makes this even more depressing, man, is that each team this weekend, well, of course, with the exception of Dallas, who's getting skunked right now by Calamari, everybody had a good weekend. The Eagles, even though they lost, they had a pretty good showing against Baltimore. It was a 2-point game, a lot like our game. It came down to that conversion at the end. The Giants beat us and took over us in the division, or took our place in the division lead. So, but I mean, just winning a close game against the Giants, man. Yes, it would have kept us alive in the NFC race, but I just don't think it's that impressive. I don't think that means that we are the juggernauts of the NFC East. And I mean, the schedule doesn't get easier. I mean, we take on Dallas, who is averaging 32 points per game, which that's also with Dak Prescott. Definitely not with Andy Dalton if you're watching right now. Also, fun fact, Daniel Jones is undefeated against the Washington football team and 1-15 against the rest of the National Football League. Chris, how are you feeling about the Washington football team's chances in the NFC East, and do you think that they have a shot from this point on?
What blows my mind is that once Dallas loses tonight, we're competing for first place in the division next week, which we're going to lose. There are no chances. They're not good, and it's just embarrassing that we do have chances at this point.
And the funny part to me about it is that no matter how bad the Cowboys play tonight, Andy Dalton's going to look like a Pro Bowler against us. And I hate to say that.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe on the positive side of things, we got the Eagles one more time, which we stomped them. We got the Giants one more time. Maybe we split that. We got Dallas twice. We'll see how things go there. It's possible to make a run, I guess. I just don't think it's I just don't see it. After that Giants performance, man, that was a dagger into the season for me, man. I know we're at week 7, and as content creators, we shouldn't be saying stuff like that. We should be playing that agenda and, saying stuff like we're on a payroll, but at the end of the day, man, we got to call it like we see it. That's what we do at Washington Brawl. Because at the end of the day, man, if the Washington football team plays like they did on Sunday, you can just go ahead and call the 2020 season in the books. We aren't even at the halfway point, Chris. It isn't even the trade deadline yet. It's going to be a long season, man.
It already is. It already is, and it's going to get even longer.
It is, man. And we hate to end this one on a somber note, guys, but that is all the time we have today for the Washington Brawl Podcast. If you're still with us, we appreciate you as always. Make sure you give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those social medias at Washington Brawl, at Redskins Ball on Facebook. We're working on that, guys. Facebook's being kind of stingy. Zuckerberg needs to get his shit together. Leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening to us on. If you're having trouble finding this and other episodes, use the Linktree app in all of our bios on all of our social medias. Also, make sure you head over to brawlnetwork.com where you can find the latest from Washington Brawl lead writer Dave Oberman, and you can find some Washington Brawl merchandise. You can rep your boys. You can get your Sean Taylor 21 shirt. You can get your Riverboat Ron shirt. You can get your Simba shirt, even though it'll probably be worth $3 in a year's time. You can get your Washington Brawl exclusive shirt in white, black, burgundy, all those good colors, man. $20. Go over there, support your boys, look good doing it. So watch this episode and other episodes of Washington Brawl on the Brawl Network's official YouTube channel, and subscribe so you can also see our exclusive Twitch series, Washington Brawl Madden 21 Game of the Week. This week we got a special episode, guys. I don't know if you guys were tuning in to the Redskins Addict pregame show live on Facebook, but I am taking on Dev, and we are both going to be the Washington football team. That is certainly going to be an interesting matchup, and first time playing against anybody you guys might know, not just a randos, so make sure you guys check the page and the information for all that. Shout out to the Redskins Addicts for letting me come on moderating their live stream before the game the other day. Also, shout out to the DC Tweet team and the Burgundy Zone for having me on the shows this week. It's been a blast. We cover a pretty bad team, guys, but I definitely think we make the best of it. So, feeling a little tipsy. About time to wrap this one up. We'll hit you guys this Thursday with an official preview of the matchup this Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. But until then, this has been the Washington Brawl Podcast, presented to you by the Brawl Network. Peace.